Well, I think we are at that point where some people think the market is just a losing bet at this point. I mean, we all make mistakes, and clearly this market is not about to turn around anytime soon. Good earnings get you destroyed. Bad earnings get you sent into a strange oblivion where you go from bright future to bankruptcy risk, and the stock price reflects that quickly. Heck, good companies look like bankruptcy risk now. And we have data showing retail once again has sold out en masse and is the most bearish they have been in over a year. So I will walk through all the data, all the narratives, and explain to you what I sold, when I sold it, and the why behind it all. So please just like the video if your portfolio is down, which means I expect a lot of likes on this video, and boy do I need the boost given how ugly it's been out there. And yes, it's also true, click this video right up here for the details, but I am ending the perpetual sale for my private group very soon, forever, for real this time, because I have to get better, and your feedback right here helped me make the jump and to be better. So the announcement of the changes in strategy, the ending date of the sale, and all of that will probably be announced in my next video, so don't miss out on the discounted price for real this time around. Alright, so let's briefly recap the 3 considerations I take into account before selling, just so you know where I am coming from. I've covered these before on this channel, so no need to do it in long form just to stretch out the video. I really hate it when people do that. So number 1 would be, was there a fundamental change with the business? I mean, did a key management team member leave? Did the guidance on an earnings call indicate a shift in the business that changes your projections long term? Not short term here, guys, long term. Is there new regulation that will affect the bottom line? What fundamentally changed with the business? And second, what was the long-term plan with the stock? I mean, are you making decisions based on price fluctuations or based on your plan? Price movements and buying and selling around those are trading strategies. I'm personally a long-term investor, so the fact that a stock is flat or down for an extended time is not enough by itself to make me sell a stock. And third, what is your plan after you sell? I mean, what are you putting that money into? Okay, so you decided something did change for you, but what are you going to do with the money? I mean, what is your next stock to buy? What is your valuation for that stock and your full plan for that new stock to include entry and exit points? I lay all of this out before ever selling the stock. So that's kind of your quick recap right there, the 3 things that I look at when I go to sell a stock. So we also have retail selling en masse and finally heading to the exits for good, it looks like. And of course, this could change, but that is what we are seeing so far. But my real question is this in regards to retail selling out. Who usually makes money in the stock market over the long run? I mean, is it the big guys or is it us, the retail investors? And I hate to say it and I hate to admit it, and I'm not knocking anybody or being negative or anything else like that, but I think most of us will agree it's the big guys who tend to come out great over the long run, so I tend to not follow what the retail crowd does, especially as a long-term investor, and let me give you an example. I was not going all in last year when seemingly everyone, no matter where I was at, I mean in the airport, with clients, at the gym, I mean everyone was an investor buying penny stocks and crypto and all kinds of other crazy things. You know, they were day traders, they were everything. I was doing the opposite during that time and buying old man stocks that were on a discount. So I view retail selling as having nothing really to do with the fundamental change and everything to do with the emotions of the moment. So to me, that doesn't really hit the criteria I just laid out, so that can't be the reason to sell. That's not the only thing happening out there. There are a lot more troubling things than retail selling out en masse. So let's look at inflation next, since it is wildly out of control, and that goes hand in hand with interest rates, which is another problem since the free money tap is basically kind of turned off and the tub is being completely drained. That has to be the right time to sell and go home, and signals a fundamental change. We need to hit one of the 3 criteria we just discussed. I mean, I'm sure that is what the data will show, right? Well, I mean, that sounds reasonable to me. But just to make certain, let's look at it since we have had this exact scenario play out before here in the US. I mean, this exact scenario has already happened and has already played out. In 1980, we had inflation way worse than right now at almost 15%, and the Fed took the unprecedented stance of shooting interest rates way up to levels that have never been seen before. But I must say the strategy employed by the Fed worked and inflation came back under control. Paul Volcker was the Fed chairman, and from the time he took office in late 1979 until 1981, he raised interest rates to a peak of just over 20% in 1981 before finally easing up and kind of backing that back down. Let me say it again, 20% interest rates. So looking at today's market, just the threat of a half-point increase spooks the market and sends it plummeting. So imagine what the market will do if the current Fed starts to get a little aggressive. I mean, not 20% aggressive, but just a little bit more aggressive. It's going to tank the market, right? I mean, that's exactly what happened back then. I mean, that would mean the end is here. And even though cash loses value, it's better than losing all your money in stocks, right? Well, oddly enough, the data shows the exact opposite. Between 1979 and 1983, when inflation was last this high and Paul Volcker implemented his strategy of super aggressive rate hikes, stock market returns are as follows. In 1979, it returned 12.3%, and then in 1980, it was a return of 25.7%. Then in 1981, it was down 9.73%, but then it was right back up to 14.7% in 1982, and rounding out the period, it was up 17.2% in 1983. And basically, as you can see right there, the rest of the decade returned incredibly well too. So the last time we had real inflation like we have right now, and the Fed raised rates aggressively to combat that inflation, stock market returns were wildly positive 4 out of the 5 years, and the only people who lost money were those that choose to not invest and just held cash? Yeah, that's what happened. And the people that chose to invest made a lot of money. Well, I'm going to be honest, this is a bit frustrating. I mean, the market is just tanking, but all signs point towards selling being the wrong move. I mean, this is all very confusing. To be honest, that is the truth right there. Now is not the best time to sell. The best time to sell was actually last year. Now, whoa, slow down before blasting me. Hear me out all the way before you say, thank you, Captain Hindsight. That's so freaking obvious. I'm not meaning it the way it sounds, just follow me here all the way to the end. I think we can all agree we knew a slowdown of some sort was coming. I mean, inflation was coming to some degree, and the market was getting overheated. And on the flip side, not too many had it tanking like this, and very few sold and went all cash last year too. I mean, a few did, I understand, but most didn't, and as we all know, the truth is nobody knew for sure nor the timing of any of this. But guess what? I did actually sell some stocks during that time frame last year. I sold a few stocks that I was not confident in long term and that had one of the 3 criteria we discussed to begin with. I also said last year in multiple videos that this year we are now in was not the time to speculate, and the time to cut losers or low conviction stocks was back then last year. So I sold some stocks in anticipation of this market, but I did it a few months ago when we discussed it back then. However, whoa, slow down, don't blast me. I am not a market timer. I am not a trader, and I had no clue it would get this bad, and I had no idea that any of the stocks I did sell would tank further. I had no idea about any of it, and honestly, I took a loss on those stocks back then. It's not like they were winners, they were losers. The only thing I kind of knew for certain was that we were coming into a potentially tough market conditions. No idea it would be this tough, but as a precaution, I wanted to own high conviction plays only. So that meant I needed to take a loss on some speculative plays that I was wrong on, and I needed to come into this with a portfolio of stocks I love for the long term. That's it. That's all I knew. Yeah, I would be way up if I had sold all my stocks back then, but I didn't. I did not take profits or sell any of my long-term plays that I wanted to keep. That is not what a long-term investor does. And yes, you're right. I would have looked like a genius now, but I'm not a genius, guys. You all know that. And I don't rely on those types of strategies. I mean, other genius market timers are out there supposedly, but that's not me. I also believe this is the worst time to sell your high conviction stocks you want to own for the long term, even if you are down, and I'm pretty sure we're all down by now. You could end up being right in the short term, but you will most likely lose long term unless you are truly selling bad stocks you should have already dumped. And remember, the price of a stock does not always indicate the actual quality of the stock, especially in this type of market. So for the stocks I kept, nothing has fundamentally changed so far, and my plan says to keep buying these stocks at undervalued prices, and the cheaper they go, the more undervalued they get, meaning I buy more aggressively. Just remember, this will all pass. The doomsdayers are never fully right, so I will just continue buying great stocks at these ridiculous prices in some cases. I will be patient because you're going to have to be patient in this market as it continues to deteriorate, and I will ignore the noise as it could talk me into selling the bottom. And if you need help doing evaluation, planning, mastering your money, or you just want to slide into my DMs, make sure you get your discounted spot before the sale ends. And click this video right here if you want more information on 5 stocks I'm buying now. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.